Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and I'd like to welcome you to my tutorial demo on this is once going to be associated with Chapter 3 of the Murach MySQL book, second edition, which we're using in my database course. And so as we go through the book, I want to remind you that there are, at the end of all the chapters, starting with chapter 3, there are exercises for you to do that are printed in the book. They do a pretty good job of taking you through your paces on the skills for that chapter. And when we downloaded the sample databases for the textbook from the publisher's website, we also downloaded the solutions to those exercises. So you should be able to take a try at any of those and then go look at the solution. And I can't guarantee that they're all correct, but they're nearly all correct. Okay? The assignments that I'm giving out in my course are from a different set of exercises that deal with another database, the My Guitar Shop database. And they're kind of parallel to the exercises that are in the textbook. So if you're working on the exercises that I've assigned for the course and you get stuck, remember to look at try to find a similar exercise that's been given in the back of the chapter, and then look up the solution. Okay, that's fair, and you might get inspiration from that. Now, in terms of my tutorial, instead of doing any particular exercise, I'm going to do sort of what I hope is an inspirational exploration of the topics in the chapter. So to do that, I'm here in my Windows virtual machine. I'm going to fire up MySQL Workbench, and I'm going to just going to use one of the two connections that I have here. Okay, so I connected just fine. Now, I don't know how recently I've refreshed the databases. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of all of my copies of the database. Every database is represented by a schema here. And so I'm just going to highlight each one and say I want to drop it. Okay. So I've dropped the AP. Now I've dropped the EX. I've dropped the My Guitar Shop. Let me drop it before I claim that I've dropped it. The OM is another one of the sample databases from the book. And SYS is not something we need right now, so we're going to drop that. And www is the solution to the final project. That's hanging around from last semester. And now I'm going to go and find the query that builds the sample databases associated with the book. So let's do that. I'm going to open up a query, and I followed my instructions. My directory structure for the material that I downloaded from the book starts with Murach, and then MySQL, and then DB setup is going to give us a chance to open up create databases. And now I'm going to click on the leftmost lightning bolt and run it. and I should have created the 3 databases that are associated with the textbook. And I'm going to come down on the left side to my panel and refresh the schemas. And now I can see that I've got A, P, E, X, and O, M. All right. I can close that query. There's an old query to vendors here. And now I have an empty query right here. So let's look at kind of good habits here. Okay, in this particular client, the MySQL Workbench, one of the ways that you can tell the database the tools that you want to work with a particular database is you can come over in the panel here to the left and you can double click it. And the name of it goes bold and all of that kind of stuff. Now, this is nice if you're working with this all by yourself. But if you want to create a script that you want to save and you want to give to somebody else to run, okay, you don't want to tell them, okay, here's the script to run, and before you run it, go double click on AP. And in fact, there's no equivalent of that in the command line client. So what I usually do before any of my the queries, the first line in my script is usually a use, and this is something I'm going to recommend for you. So the AP database, which is the one we're going to be playing with here in the demo, is called AP. So use AP semicolon. Okay. So even though I'm going to have a very simple select statement as my query, I'm going to have a multi-statement script because I begin with a use. Okay. That took care of that. Now let's go over here to the panel and see what the tables are. And what I would like to do is I'd like to pick a table that has a lot of information in it. Okay, because in this chapter, chapter 3, we're learning how to do a query using the SQL select, and we're doing it from a single table. And as we're going to find out, that's not really typical. And the reason that's not typical is that the design of relational databases is follows a principle called normalization, in which we get rid of all redundant data columns. And so typically to create some kind of a view that looks good to the user all by itself, we need to query 2 tables at once. And when we query a single table, let's just look at a single table that has this kind of property that I'm going to talk about. Let's look at invoices. So let's say select all columns, that's the asterisk, from invoices. All right. So let's run the query, and we ran it. So we have a lot of interesting stuff here. We have an invoice ID, that's not so interesting. A vendor ID, well, what's the vendor associated with it? Well, you have to chase down the vendor ID to get the vendor information. This vendor ID field serves as what we call a foreign key. So to get vendor information and associate with the invoices, you need to be able to query 2 tables. Well, we're not up to that yet. And we're going across, and then we want to find the terms, and we find out we have a terms ID. The same kind of situation. So in terms of picking a table that I think is attractive for what we would like to do, I'm going to close that answer set, and I'm going to say that I like the vendors table. Okay, so let's just select all the fields from vendors. Okay, and give that a run. And this has it has the vendor ID. We've got the vendor name. We have one line of address called vendor address 1, another line called vendor address 2 that's optional. So if it doesn't occur, we have a null there. Vendor city, vendor state, vendor zip code, vendor phone, vendor contact last name, vendor contact first name. Default terms ID. This is a foreign key that points to the terms table, but we have a lot of information that's in the table itself that's not, you don't have to chase across a relationship with a foreign key. And then we have a default account, which is a foreign key into another one of the tables as well. So we have a whole lot of data that we can look at here without having to refer to more than one table at once. Okay? Okay. Now, one of the problems that I see people are new to SQL. One of the things that I see people do is that they try to learn all the skills at once. Okay? And so they'll try to think up a pretty complex query, type it all in, and then get it to run. Well, sometimes that can be disappointing because you can have problems with your syntax. You can just kind of misunderstand how the various clauses of, say, the select statement relate to each other. So what I like to do is I like to build things up. Okay? And so I always like to start with select all fields, all columns from the table name. Okay? And that's what we have here. So if we run this again, prove that we can make it work. So we've got a lot of columns. Okay? So all of the columns are qualifying. And of course, all of the rows are too. Now in this particular client, you sometimes don't, it's kind of hard to get the scroll bar. I don't know why it doesn't want to come up here, but I have 123 rows. So I didn't see a scroll bar, but I was able to scroll with the scroll wheel feature of my mouse. Okay, so that's all there. Oh, that's good. So, so what can we do? Well, typically when we are doing a select, we want to get back an answer set, and we're probably going to be using it to either populate some kind of a printed report or to populate some kind of a web page report. And well, typically we're either looking for all the rows, or we're looking for some subset of the rows, or we might be looking for one. And when we're on a table that has this much information, sometimes we're not looking for all of the rows. So then we want to make use of I'm sorry, not all the rows. I meant all the columns. Then we want to make use of the column list. So instead of select all, we start to name the columns that we want. Okay. Vendor name. Let's put vendor name. Select vendor name from vendors. Okay. Well, that's okay. If we just have a single name, we don't have to have any commas or anything like that in between it. Let's give it a run. So here are all the vendor names. Okay. And it turns out there are 123 of those. That's pretty nice. Okay. Now, how are we going to remember the names of the columns? Well, over here on the left side, where we have the tables, we can open the vendors table, and then there's a little triangle to open for columns. And here we have a list of the columns. Okay, so if we want to have a list of the columns, let's say we want the vendor name, and then let's do vendor, city, state, and zip. So instead of typing vendor city, I can come down here, and I believe I just have to double click on vendor city, and there it is. Very nice. So vendor city, comma, space, whoop. Don't know why that happens. Sometimes I hit hit a button on my mouse and everything goes berserk on me. So vendor city, then I want to add vendor state, and I want to add vendor zip code. Okay, and again, there's no comma after the last of the column names from vendors. Okay, let's give that a run. Pretty much what we want. Okay, so we can either ask for all the columns, or we can ask for columns by name. And if we don't want to type in the columns, if we start to type in the columns, the SQL editor that we're using will give us some auto completion help. So the other thing that we could do, let's see, we've got one called vendor phone. So if we type vendor underscore, we'll get an auto completion list. So now we can double click on vendor phone. So there are a lot of really nice features. The features get better as the versions get later. The auto-completion feature on the version that I'm running on my Mac is not quite so functional as what we just saw in this somewhat later version that I was able to get to run on Windows. Okay, so there's a lot of help in the editor, and again, we just can run the query. So for me, because I typically start queries with use database name, all of my statements, all of my scripts are multi-statement scripts. So typically, I don't want to highlight anything in the window, and I typically want to use the lightning bolt on the left because it's going to execute everything if there's no subset of the code selected. All right, and I get that. Another thing that is helpful is using the right kind of indentation, capitalization, all those kinds of things. And a lot of editors have what we call a pretty printer, which will pretty up your code and get it to comply with kind of accepted good practices in that regard. And we have one here. It's up in the toolbar, and it's the one that's a little dust brush. It's called beautify/reformat the SQL scripts. And we do that, we get a couple of interesting things. First of all, it takes the keywords and it capitalizes them. Although it didn't do that for use, it did it for select. And then it put things on individual lines because we are allowed to continue a select statement over lines. And it did that because most practitioners think this is easy to read and easy to maintain. Okay? And of course, if we want to save this, how are we going to save it? Well, let's go up to the menu line and click on File, and we're going to say Save Script As, and I'm going to create in my documents I'm going to create a new folder and put a couple of underscores so it'll go to the top, and I'm going to call it demos. Okay, and then I'm going to open up that directory, and I'm going to call this chapter 3 first demo, so I can tell it from other things. All right, and it's been saved there. Okay, now having saved it, I can open it. Okay, so I'm going to navigate to it. Here it is in my documents, demos, chapter 3 first demo. I can open it, and I open it, and I can give it a run. Okay, so pretty straightforward so far. We specify the table that we're using in the from clause. We specify the named columns in a comma separated list after the word select. Okay. By definition, now we're getting all the columns that we want, and we're getting all the rows. Okay. And in addition, I just want to point out that we're getting them in any which order. Okay. Now, when we're doing a typical select, the order of the rows that come out in the answer set is not guaranteed. So if I run this query once, I get U.S. Postal Service on top, and I run it again, and I do that. Now that doesn't happen with all SQL products. There are some relational databases where if you haven't specified the order that you want the output in, you will never even get a stable order. So on your typical select, you always want to include an order by clause. Well, how can we do that? Well, let's do that. Let's come down to the bottom, and let's say, let's say order by, and I like a vendor name. Vendor underscore, and now I'm going to pick vendor name. Okay, so let's look at this and run it. And now you see that we're starting out with the A's, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we'll find out that we're at the end of the alphabet. Zilka Design is the last one. Okay, very good. So you probably always want an order by because you want a reliable order. Okay, even if you don't care the order that it's in, and that's going to be rare, but even if you don't care, your users are going to be distracted if you run your query again and it comes out in some other order, if it has an unstable order. So control it by controlling the order with the order by clause. Okay, so now we are getting all the rows. Okay, so how can we control the rows that we get so that we might get only the rows that we're interested in? Well, as you remember, we're going to use the where clause. Okay, so let's throw in the where clause, and let's try something like this. Let's try, we've got vendor state here, and I can see how you might want to create a subset of the list, just see how many vendors are in a particular state. So and we see California's up first. So let's give that a try. So let's add where, okay, vendor state, and again we can take the auto completion, equals, and let's just let's use the single quotes here, the apostrophe CA. Okay, well that's nice. I'm already kind of getting down to the place where I can't see all my code. So I closed the results set, and I'm going to save my work, and I'm going to run it. And here we are. We've got vendor state equals CA. Okay. So there's a lot of things that we can do with it. Oh, and let's see how this looks when we beautify it. Okay, so it likes to put the where clause parts on separate lines, because a lot of times we have a complex where clause. But the order by, it put the vendor name right there next to order by. I always like to use this pretty printer feature because it makes my code easy to read, and I find it much easier to maintain. Okay. What else could we do? Well, there's a lot of other things that we could do. I mean, we could calculate fields, right? So, for instance, it's possible for us to do something silly, like take a numeric field. Do we even have a numeric field? I'm not sure that we do. Vendor phone, contact name, count number. No, we don't really have any amounts or counts. So this isn't a great place to go into calculations. Okay? But we could use some of the other things that we covered in the chapter, where we could say we just look at something that we want to do. Okay, so let's a nice thing that we might want to do is, instead of saying vendor state equal, we could use this vendor state in, okay, and then we could give a list. This is something that I like. So it's in the list of California, New Mexico, and Arizona. Okay. That's a feature that I like a lot. So now we're seeing we're getting a wider list. Okay, so there's all kinds of things we can do with the where. Okay. And then let's see, a couple other things that we could do. We can, let's use one of these functions in our list of columns so that we can get results that are kind of manipulated. Okay, so we've got vendor contact last name. Let's see where we are. Let's come down here. Got vendor contact last name, vendor contact first name. Maybe we want to have a vendor contact name. So how about we say this? How about we say concat, So that's a function that concatenates things. It puts them together. So let's say vendor contact first name, comma, and then a space, comma, and then vendor contact last name. Okay. And because this is a cooked up column and not a real column, let's say as vendor contact name. Okay. Okay. And let's give it a run. And it didn't like that. Didn't like my syntax. So we're going to have to go back and find my syntax error. Which we'll do. Oh, I saw. And it was the, we had an extra apostrophe after vendor contact last name. So nothing big. All right. So we should get the combination of the first name, a space, and the last name, and we have created a new column, and we have provided a title for it, vendor contact name. Okay, let's give that a run. And what's it not liking about that? How about that? So let's give that a save first, and then a run. Uh-oh. Now this is the thing, it can happen with the left most lightning arrow, lightning icon. If you have highlighted some of the text, it's going to think that that's what you want to run as a query. So I have to click off of that. And now it's going to run all the statements. And now I'm going to get what I want. So now I look at the last one, and I have reconstituted the name from two fields using the concatenate or concat function. Oh, great. Now there's only one more thing that we're going to learn about here, which is the limit. So there are times when you just want to show the first five. It could be, let's say you're doing some kind of search. Okay, and you don't want to show every match. You want to show the top matches. Okay, well, you can ask for the first so many. There are times when you're trying to populate a page of output. Okay, and maybe you only show 24 lines on a web page. Okay, so you want the next 24. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, one of the ways to do that is to say limit, let's say 24. Okay, and let's just not say limit 24 because that's going to make it too long to see, but let's say limit 4, and let's save that and run it, and we get 4. So just to review what we've done here, we've looked at the structure of a query using select that gets all of its information from one table, something that's going to be unusual because of the way we design relational databases. We split the information up into various tables, and it's going to be more typical that we're going to be using more than one table, which is a skill that we're going to learn how to do in the next of the chapters. Okay, this is a great way to start. Okay, so we've learned how to say the database we're using. That's a safe way, a safe thing to put into your script that use AP, because you don't have to tell the user, oh, when you load my query, go down and double click on the AP database first. They just have to load your query and run it. And then the select, we've got pretty simple, the names of the columns. We're using the concat function to build an expression from two columns and to give it its own title, vendor contact name. The from clause only has the one table. That makes sense. The where clause, that's what's going to limit the rows that we see. Without a where clause, we see all the rows. Okay? There are times when you want that, but most times you have a narrower question. And then we use the in feature, which gave us a nice opportunity to match when it was matched on either of those group of three or any of those group of three states. The order by we're typically going to want because the selects don't come out in a particular order. Okay? They may appear to come out in a particular order even without order by in your implementation of this product. But in some products, they don't even come out in the same order in subsequent runs of the same query. So you definitely want an order by. And then something like the limit for, it really depends on what our requirements are. If we want to see all the things that match, well, then we don't want a limit. If we're just going to put 4 or 24 answers on a page, then we want to make sure that we don't bring back any more than we intend to use when we're formatting our page. So that's it. And the general theme here is, instead of trying to write this whole query all at once, I'm going to recommend that you write it kind of step by step and kind of build the query that you want in parts so that you don't get bogged down in syntax errors and problems like that. I have found this a very helpful approach for me and my students over the years, and I'm hoping it's going to serve you well. And with that advice, I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.